The front doors of the Willow Ridge Police Department slammed open like they'd been hit by a battering ram. A massive German shepherd, matted, bloodied, limping, dragged his body across the tile floor, every step soaked in mud and agony. Strapped to his back with torn fabric was a little girl, unconscious, her pale arms hanging lifelessly, her hair crusted with blood and dirt. "Jesus Christ," Officer Nate Harlow muttered as he bolted from behind the reception desk. The dog snarled weakly when Harlow got too close, his eyes fierce even as his legs quivered under the weight. Still protecting her, still fighting. "Back up! Give him space!" yelled Sergeant Renee Carson, rushing in from the hallway. "Get paramedics now!" The girl looked about 8. Her lips were blue, her breaths shallow. The dog didn't look much better. Gashes across his flank, his eyes clouded with pain. But when the medics cut the girl loose and laid her gently on a stretcher, he didn't move until her hand slipped from his fur. "Wait," one EMT whispered. "That's Mia Walker, the missing girl from 3 days ago, from the Amber Alert." "And the dog?" Carson asked, her voice low and tight. Officer Harlow bent down, squinting at the faded tag on the shepherd's collar. "Rex. His name's Rex." Carson froze. "Rex Walker?" She didn't wait for an answer. She already knew. "That's Luke Walker's dog, the one his wife rescued from that hurricane shelter, the one they said went rogue after she died." An eerie silence fell across the station. Mia was wheeled into the ambulance, unconscious but alive. The paramedics shouted codes and vitals into their radios as they worked. Rex, now lying in a growing pool of his own blood, still kept his amber eyes fixed on the retreating stretcher. "I'll be damned," Harlow whispered. He brought her back. Then the back door creaked open again. A woman stepped inside, shaking off the rain from her FBI jacket. Her presence silenced the room instantly. "Agent Natalie Reyes," she announced, flashing her badge. "I need to see the girl. Now." Carson stepped in front of her. "She's being transported. You're a little late." "I'm not here to take over your case," Reyes replied. "I'm here because of the dog." Everyone turned to Rex. His body trembled, his eyes never leaving the door where Mia had disappeared. "What do you mean?" Carson asked. Reyes crouched down. Her voice softened. "He's trying to tell us something." Right then, as if he understood every word, Rex did the unthinkable. He stood. His legs buckled, his side heaved, but he stood. He turned to the entrance, then back at them, his eyes burning with urgency. There was no mistaking the message. "Follow me." Reyes stepped forward, stunned. "We need to move, now." "No way," Harlow said, incredulous. "He's half dead. That dog won't make it a block. He didn't drag a bleeding child out of Burma. Nowhere for us to ignore him," Reyes shot back. "Get me a vehicle. Get me body armor. We're following him." Rex didn't wait. He hobbled toward the open door, each step leaving a trail of blood. Outside, the wind howled across the parking lot. A cold rain lashed against the pavement. Rex stopped once, glancing back. And then he moved into the dark. Agent Reyes followed. 10 minutes later, Luke Walker's phone buzzed for the 4th time. He sat in the corner of his garage, the air thick with gasoline fumes and silence. His flannel shirt was stained with motor oil. His hands were shaking. A bottle of bourbon sat unopened next to a wrench. The call went to voicemail. Then the doorbell rang. Luke opened the door with dead eyes and a loaded stare. His heart stopped when he saw who was standing there. "Mia's alive," said Agent Reyes. "But this isn't over." Luke stared at her, his voice cracking. She was found at the station. Rex carried her in." He nearly collapsed. "Rex? But he's leading us somewhere," I need you." Luke didn't ask questions after that. He grabbed his jacket and followed Reyes into the night. Deep in the woods beyond Willow Ridge Elementary, Rex limped along a trail so faded it barely existed. He paused at a clearing, ears twitching. There, half buried under a log, was a tarp-covered hatch. Reyes motioned to Luke to hang back. "Cover me." She approached slowly, flashlight in one hand, gun in the other. The hatch had drag marks near it. Something heavy had been moved. She yanked the cover off. A rusted metal handle. Scratches. A keyhole. Blood. Rex barked. Once. Then collapsed completely, his body giving out. But he had done his part. Reyes radioed in. "We've got a possible underground facility. Send backup, send medical, and call in child services." Luke dropped to his knees beside Rex, cradling his massive head. "You did it, boy. You brought her home." Rex didn't respond. His breathing was faint, uneven. His eyes fluttered shut. "No, no, no," Luke whispered. "Stay with me." Paramedics arrived just as the first bolt was turned on the hatch. Inside was worse than they imagined. Chains, bedding, empty food containers, and video cameras. Everything pointed to something much darker, and Rex had led them straight to it. Back at the hospital, Mia opened her eyes for the first time. "Daddy?" she croaked. Luke gripped her hand. "I'm here, sweetheart. You're safe." "Where's Rex?" Luke looked at Reyes. "He's fighting," she said softly. "Just like you." Mia managed a small smile. "He knew I was there. He came." She paused. "And Daddy, the man who hurt me, he smelled like the man from the night Mom died." Luke's heart stopped. "What? Same cologne?" And just like that, everything snapped into place. Rex hadn't just rescued Mia, he had dragged the truth out of the shadows, and this was only the beginning. By the time dawn broke over Willow Ridge, the town was already buzzing. News had spread fast. An 8-year-old girl found barely alive, a German shepherd dragging her across miles of forest. Police were calling it a miracle. Reporters were calling it a mystery. But Agent Natalie Reyes knew better. This wasn't over. It was just starting. At Willow Ridge Memorial Hospital, Luke sat by Mia's bedside, his hands trembling slightly as he watched her sleep. The machines beeped steadily beside her, a rhythmic proof of life he clung to. He hadn't slept, not since Agent Reyes showed up at his door, not since Rex appeared, bloodied and near death, with Mia tied to his back. Luke reached out, gently brushing a lock of hair from his daughter's face. "I thought I lost you," he whispered. "I thought I lost everything." Across the room, Reyes entered quietly. "She's stable," she said. Luke nodded. "They said she'll be okay, physically." "Mentally's another battle," Reyes replied. "And we've got one too." Luke turned. "You found something in that hatch?" Reyes hesitated. "Evidence. Bare-bones infrastructure. It was used recently, but whoever operated it knew how to clean up. We found a phone charger. Some fingerprints, no IDs. But the real lead is Rex." Luke raised an eyebrow. "A dog is your lead?" "Not just any dog. He wasn't guessing out there, Luke. He knew where to go. And I think he knew why." Luke looked away. "He was my wife's. Ava rescued him after that hurricane hit New Orleans. I didn't want him. Not at first. But Mia, she wouldn't leave the shelter without him. She said, 'His eyes are sad like mine.'" Reyes smiled faintly. "She's a smart girl." Luke's jaw tightened. "I abandoned that dog once. After Ava died. Couldn't look at him. He was there that night, the night she was killed. He tried to stop it, got slashed across the side, and I still blamed him. Reyes crossed her arms. He didn't hold it against you. No, he just waited, then saved her. At that moment, a nurse knocked and peeked in. Mr. Walker? Sorry to interrupt. There's someone here to see you. Said he's family. Luke frowned. I don't have family. The nurse shrugged. He said his name's Charles Whitaker. Claims he was close to your wife. Luke stood immediately alert. Where is he? Charles Whitaker looked out of place in the hospital hallway. He wore a sharp grey suit, his hair slicked back with practiced precision. His smile was all charm, but his eyes were calculating. Luke, he said warmly. Been a long time. Luke crossed his arms. Not long enough. I came as soon as I heard. Mia, I'm glad she's safe. Reyes stepped up beside Luke. And you are? Charles Whitaker. I knew Ava back when she worked at the station in Atlanta. She and I worked on a couple stories before she transferred. She was an investigative journalist, Reyes said cautiously. Still was, Whitaker said. Last time we spoke, she said she was sitting on something big. Said it went higher than anyone realized. Luke's voice dropped. You haven't called once in 2 years, and now you're here? Whitaker's expression cooled. I have my reasons, and one of them is this. He handed over a worn manila envelope. Something Ava sent me a week before she died. Said to only open it if something happened to her. I didn't, not until this morning. Luke took the envelope carefully, his heart pounding. Inside was a flash drive and a single sheet of paper. Reyes read it over Luke's shoulder. If something happens to me, don't trust anyone until you've heard it from Rex. He knows the scent. The man who hurt me wears cologne that smells like cloves and metal. Rex never forgets a scent. Reyes whispered. She used the dog like an archive, like a memory bank. Luke said nothing, just stared at the paper, jaw clenched. Whitaker smiled. I figured I'd drop it off. I have to catch a flight tonight anyway. Reyes narrowed her eyes. You came all this way to hand-deliver this? Well, Whitaker chuckled. Let's just say Ava and I were closer than you thought. Luke moved before he even realized it. One hand grabbed Whitaker's collar, slamming him against the wall. You don't talk about her like that. Not here. Not now. Reyes pulled him back. Easy. He's not worth it. Whitaker straightened his coat, unbothered. I'll be in town for a day or two, in case you want to ask more questions. Or maybe just thank me. Then he walked away. Reyes exhaled. He's hiding something. Luke nodded. Rex would know. Back in the ICU, Rex was hooked up to IVs and monitors. His breathing was shallow, his ribs bruised, but he stirred when Luke entered. Mia opened her eyes from the bed across the room. Dad, is he okay? He's hanging on, Luke said softly. Just like you. Can he come closer? Luke helped Rex to his feet. The dog limped to Mia's side and placed his muzzle on the edge of her blanket. Hey, boy, Mia whispered, stroking his ears. You found me, just like you always do. Rex let out a soft whine and closed his eyes. Mia, Luke said gently, you told me. The man who took you. He smelled like the man who hurt Mom. She nodded slowly. That cologne. I never forgot it. Luke swallowed hard. Do you think Rex would know that scent again? I think he already does, she whispered. Later that night, Reyes sat in the hospital parking lot, her laptop glowing dim in the dark. She loaded the contents of Ava's flash drive. It wasn't just a few notes. It was a full dossier. Photos of high-level donors to a children's charity, a youth mentorship non-profit called Future Horizon. Board members with sealed records, flight logs, private meetings, and at the center of it all, one name: Thomas Blackwell. Reyes froze. Blackwell was a public darling. Ex-military, youth advocate, ran after-school programs across 6 states, a man who had shaken hands with senators, and according to Ava's files, the one bankrolling the entire trafficking network. She picked up her phone and called headquarters. "We need to reopen the case. Quietly." Ava Walker wasn't just on to something. She was about to blow the lid off the biggest operation we've ever seen. "Do you have proof?" the voice asked. Reyes stared at Rex's photo on the screen, his eyes locked on the camera, defiant even through pain. "Yeah," she said. "I've got a witness with 4 legs and a memory sharper than any agent I've ever worked with." And that was the moment Reyes knew. Rex hadn't just brought Mia home. He was leading them straight into war. Agent Natalie Reyes didn't sleep that night. She couldn't. The flash drive Ava left behind contained enough to justify a full-blown federal investigation, but too many names were high profile. And Whitaker's sudden reappearance? That wasn't a coincidence. Nothing in this case was. At 6:17 a.m., Reyes was back at Willow Ridge Memorial, stepping into the hospital room just as sunlight cracked through the blinds. Mia was awake, sipping apple juice. Luke sat beside her, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Rex was curled up near the foot of the bed, tail thumping once when Reyes walked in. "I need a moment," she said. "Alone." Luke stood, kissed Mia's forehead, and stepped out. Reyes sat in the chair he'd left behind and leaned forward. "Mia, do you remember anything else about where you were?" Mia's voice was quiet. "It smelled like mildew, like wet rocks. The walls were cold, and there was a humming sound, like electricity." "A generator?" Mia nodded. "What about people? Their faces? Voices?" "There was a man with dark gloves. And the woman, she was nice at first. She gave me crackers, but then she got weird when I asked questions." Reyes's pulse kicked up. "A woman?" She had blonde hair, a tattoo on her wrist. A hummingbird, I think. That was new. The original evidence pointed to Blackwell and a ring of men using charitable organizations. A woman hadn't been in the mix. Rex shifted beside Mia, his ears twitching. "He doesn't like talking about them," Mia whispered, petting his back. "He growls when I do." Reyes leaned back, nodding slowly. "He remembers. Just like you." Across town, Luke Walker was at the police station, standing in front of a digital map with Sheriff Dean Moore. "This is where Rex first broke from your property," Moore said, tapping the screen. "He ran across 5 miles of rough terrain, crossed the stream here, past the old quarry." "That's where Ava used to hike," Luke said quietly. Moore glanced over. "You think she found something out there?" "I think Rex remembered. Dog's got a nose like a bloodhound," Moore muttered, "and a grudge like a Marine. Let me follow his path," Luke said. "I'll take the tracker. See where he led you before." Moore hesitated. "You sure you're ready?" Luke nodded. "I wasn't ready when Ava died. I wasn't ready when Mia was taken. But now, I can't not be ready." That afternoon, Luke hiked into the woods, retracing Rex's trail with a field jeep and a small notebook in his back pocket. The deeper he went, the more memories clawed at him. Laughter on fallen logs, Ava's voice teasing him for stepping in mud, Rex barking in the distance, tail wagging. After 2 hours of hiking, he found it. An old shed, half swallowed by vines and thyme. The door creaked open. Inside, mold crept along the walls, an overturned table, burnt wires, and a fresh shoe print. Luke stepped carefully, every nerve on edge. Then he saw it. A red scarf. Mia's scarf. Still damp, tangled on a nail. His heart pounded. Someone had brought her here recently. He reached into his pocket for his phone and froze. Breathing. Behind him. He spun just in time to see a flash of movement and the butt of a rifle crashing into his jaw. Darkness swallowed him whole. When Luke came to, his wrists were zip-tied, his head pounding. He was in a basement, musty, dimly lit. Somewhere underground. Footsteps echoed above him. A voice called down, "He's awake!" A figure descended the stairs. It was the woman Mia had described. Blonde. Hummingbird tattoo. Calm, even pleasant. "Sorry about the hit. Couldn't have you poking around." "Who are you?" Luke rasped. "Someone who used to believe in the cause," she said simply. "Then people like your wife made it complicated." Ava knew. She knew too much. Luke's fists clenched. "What do you want?" "To send a message," she said, pulling out her phone. "Your bait, Mr. Walker. They'll come for you. And when they do, we'll make sure they know what happens to people who dig too deep." Upstairs, the door slammed shut. Luke sat in the silence, heart racing, mind turning. He had to get out. Back at the hospital, Reyes stared at her phone. Something was wrong. Luke had missed their check-in. She called again. Straight to voicemail. Rex, lying on the floor beside her, lifted his head and let out a low, warning growl. Reyes crouched down. "You know something's off, don't you?" Rex stood, moved to the window, then to the door. He paced, whined. "Okay," Reyes muttered, grabbing her coat. "Let's follow the dog." It took less than 30 minutes for Rex to lead her deep into the woods. Every twist, every turn matched the GPS trail from Luke's earlier hike. Then Rex stopped. He sniffed the ground, barked once, and darted forward. Reyes followed, ducking branches, heart hammering. The shed loomed ahead. Inside, she found the red scarf. Fresh footprints, and signs of a struggle. Luke was gone. But there was something else. A symbol etched into the wooden beam above the door. A crest. A bird in flight. Almost identical to the tattoo Mia had described. Reyes took a photo and called it in. "We've got a location, possible abduction, and a witness who's ready to track." She looked down at Rex. "You're leading this now." The dog stood tall, eyes locked on the horizon. For the first time, she saw it clearly. Rex wasn't just loyal, he was relentless, and someone was about to find out what it meant to be hunted by a ghost. The storm hit just as Agent Reyes and Rex reached the tree line near the ridge. Rain came down in sheets, turning the forest trail to sludge. But Rex didn't hesitate. He darted forward, nose to the ground, weaving through roots and brush with single-minded focus. "Easy, buddy," Reyes called, slipping on the wet earth. "Don't get too far." Rex stopped, glanced back, then barked once. Urgent, focused. Then he took off again, toward the ravine. By the time they reached the edge, Reyes saw it, a small set of tire tracks in the mud. Fresh. A van, most likely. The kind used for quick grabs and quiet drop-offs. Rex circled the area, growling low as he sniffed around a patch of disturbed ground. Reyes knelt, brushing away debris, and found it. Zip-tie fragments and a bloody cloth. "Luke," she whispered. She pulled her radio. "This is Reyes. I've got signs of a struggle. Walker was definitely taken. I'm sending coordinates now. Deploy local units, but tell them to stay back until we assess further. Rex growled again. His ears perked, then turned toward the west. Someone was nearby. Suddenly, from the trees, a crack, like a twig snapping. Reyes spun, weapon drawn, but nothing moved. Until it did. Two figures emerged from the brush. Armed. Tactical gear. No badges. Mercs. They weren't law enforcement, and they weren't local. Their body language screamed kill team. Reyes didn't wait. "Run!" she shouted to Rex, who took off down the ridge. Gunfire erupted. She dove behind a fallen log, bullets slicing through bark and earth around her. She fired back, catching one in the leg. He screamed and fell, the other dragging him back. "Fall back," one shouted. "We only need the dog." Her blood ran cold. They weren't after her. They were after Rex. Reyes bolted after him. Rex moved like a shadow. Through the storm, through the gunfire, he led Reyes to a hidden road cut through the forest. Old, barely used, overgrown with weeds and branches. There, half covered in a camo tarp, was a vehicle. Reyes peeked inside. A map on the dashboard. A burner phone. Gloves. Zip ties. More proof. They were staging drop points. She opened the glove box and found a laminated ID. Department of Youth and Family Support. State issued. But the face didn't match the name. "Fake cover," she muttered. "They're using child protection badges to smuggle kids." Rex growled again. This time he didn't look up. He looked down. Reyes followed his gaze. A trap door. Barely visible beneath the leaves and roots. She pulled at it, and the rotted wood creaked open. Stairs descended into darkness. She flicked on her flashlight. "You ready?" she asked. Rex didn't move. He stepped forward and led the way. The basement smelled like oil and old water. It was colder down here, the kind of cold that creeps into bones. Reyes's light cut through the black. They passed empty cages, rusted chains, used syringes. And then, movement. A figure slumped in the corner, zip-tied to a chair. "Luke!" She ran forward, checking his pulse. Alive. Weak, but alive. He blinked slowly, eyes finding her. "They're coming back," he croaked. "I know," she said, cutting the restraints. "We're not staying." Luke shook his head. "They weren't just watching me. They're watching you too." "What?" "She's dirty, Reyes. Someone on the inside." "Who?" But before he could answer, footsteps echoed from above. "They're back." She grabbed her radio. "Reyes to all units. Hostile cell confirmed. Walker secured. Need immediate extraction. Coordinates en route. They're hunting K9. No reply. Static. "They've cut the signal," she whispered. Rex growled again, this time deep, furious. The trapdoor slammed shut. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Reyes turned just in time to see 3 masked figures rush in, night vision goggles glowing. The first raised his rifle. Rex launched. The impact knocked the man flat. Rex tore into him, ripping through armor like it was cloth. The second raised his gun, but Reyes shot first. "Center mass." He dropped. The third went for Luke. Rex twisted mid-air and tackled him, jaws locking onto the attacker's arm. Screams echoed through the room. Then silence. Panting. Blood. Rex stood over the attacker's body, eyes wild, breathing ragged. Reyes stared at him. "Rex, you just saved all of us." Luke, still half-conscious, reached out and grabbed her wrist. "There's someone helping them," he said. "Not just mercs. It's political. Federal." "Who?" He swallowed. "Whitaker." Reyes blinked. "As in Assistant Director Whitaker?" Luke nodded. He's in deep. Covered for them. Maybe more. Reyes stood up, breath caught between disbelief and fury. That was the missing piece. The betrayal. The reason these people always stayed one step ahead. Whitaker wasn't just compromised. He was orchestrating it. Outside, sirens finally screamed through the night. FBI vans, SWAT, the cavalry. Reyes climbed out of the trapdoor, Rex at her side, muzzle stained with blood, but tail held high. She waved them down, holding up her badge. We've got a witness. We've got a survivor. And we've got a mole. One agent stepped forward. What's the dog's name? Reyes didn't miss a beat. His name's Rex, and without him this whole thing would still be buried. The wind shifted, and somewhere far away, Whitaker checked his phone, reading a message that made his lips twist. Rex survived. His thumb hovered over the screen. He deleted the message, then made a call. Accelerate the plan, burn the rest. War had been declared. Rex had drawn first blood. And Whitaker knew. He'd underestimated the wrong dog. The air inside the command center was electric. Screens flickered with surveillance feeds, maps, and live drone footage over the Appalachian backwoods. Agent Reyes paced, jaw locked, phone pressed to her ear. You're sure? She asked. On the other end, an encrypted line crackled with Deputy Director Halston's voice. Whitaker is currently attending a Senate briefing on cybersecurity. We need more than speculation to go after him. Reyes bit down hard on her response. I've got a witness, field evidence, and a K-9 that just took down 3 armed mercs. How much more do you need? A confession. Or hard proof. Something that will survive a federal hearing. I'll stall him. But you need to find whatever they're protecting out there. And fast. The line went dead. Reyes turned to Rex, who sat beside her, alert and still stained from the last fight. His amber eyes locked on hers. Guess we're not done, huh? Rex thumped his tail once. Luke, bruised and bandaged, sat nearby, watching her. There's a facility, he said. Deep woods, off any registered map. They called it the farm. That's where they moved the high-value kids. Reyes narrowed her eyes. Why haven't we hit it yet? Luke hesitated. Because the location rotates. Every 72 hours. I overheard them say they were relocating tomorrow morning. After that, it vanishes again. And Whitaker? He's the one calling the timing. He tells the field teams when it's safe to move. They only trust a short window. Reyes turned back to the map. Then we've got less than 12 hours. The team was small. Hand-picked, no outside comms, no paper trail. Just Reyes, 2 agents she trusted from another field office, and Rex. They went dark at midnight. By 2:13 a.m. they were hiking down a fire road that hadn't seen traffic in decades. The trees closed in around them, and fog rolled across the forest floor like something owling. Then Rex stopped, tail stiff, ears twitching. He growled low in his throat and turned left. Off the trail. Reyes followed without hesitation. They reached a clearing. No lights, no movement. Just a decrepit barn sinking into itself. Inside, a metal hatch sat half-covered by hay and chains. Reyes approached slowly. Let's crack it open, she whispered. But before they could, a voice crackled through their comms. Static, then a whisper. You shouldn't have come. Everyone froze. It wasn't Reyes's voice. It wasn't any of theirs. It was coming through the radio on a private frequency. Another agent hissed, Who the hell? Reyes yanked her earpiece out. Jam the comms! We've been compromised! Suddenly, floodlights exploded to life. Sniper beams scanned the clearing. Machine gun fire tore through the trees. They hit the ground instantly, returning fire from cover. One agent was down. Rex barked once, then bolted through the gunfire, weaving between rounds like a phantom. Reyes saw him disappear into the barn. "Rex!" She scrambled after him, sliding into the open hatch just as bullets raked the metal siding. Underground, the world was concrete and quiet. Cool air rushed past her face. The smell hit first. Bleach, metal, old blood. Then, voices. Faint. Children. Reyes crept down the hall, weapon drawn. A figure rounded the corner. White coat, clipboard in hand. A doctor. Reyes didn't hesitate. "FBI, down on the ground." The woman dropped the clipboard, wide-eyed. "Please, I'm not with them. I just monitor vitals. They forced me to work here." "Where are they keeping the kids?" The doctor gestured to a steel door down the hall. "There. But there's something else. Below. A vault." Reyes narrowed her eyes. "Vault? Files, tapes, names." She left the doctor with zip ties and followed Rex's barking down the next level. In the vault, Rex stood at a cabinet marked Project Lantern. His paws scratched frantically at the lower drawer. Reyes yanked it open. Dozens of tapes, labeled with initials and dates. She pocketed as many as she could carry. Suddenly, footsteps above. They were coming. Back at the clearing, reinforcements arrived. State troopers and 2 more FBI units Reyes had secretly rerouted. The fight turned fast. The mercs weren't ready for a full assault. As Reyes emerged from the underground tunnel with Rex and the tapes, gunfire echoed across the hills, but the tide was turning. An explosion ripped through the main entrance. Rex pushed Reyes to the ground just in time as debris rained down. When she looked up, he was shielding her with his body, eyes scanning for more danger. "You're not just a dog," she whispered. "You're a damn soldier." At 4:40 a.m., the facility was secure. 12 children were found, drugged but alive. 37 pieces of evidence were collected, including financial records, medical files, and video proof. But it was one specific tape, dated 2 weeks ago, that made Reyes's blood run cold. It showed a boardroom, a man in a grey suit, a familiar face. Assistant Director Thomas Whitaker. Clear as day, giving orders. No mask, no hesitation. Rex sat beside the monitor, watching it with calm, eerie stillness. As the room erupted in activity, Reyes crouched beside him. "You did it," she said. "You gave us everything we needed." The German shepherd didn't wag his tail. He didn't bark. He just pressed his head against her knee and closed his eyes. Quiet. Steady. Like he understood what came next. The real war was just beginning, and Rex would be at the front of it. The FBI safe house outside Charleston was quiet. Too quiet. Agent Reyes paced the hallway, her hand resting on her sidearm, as if muscle memory was all that kept her anchored. The children from the facility were being processed and cared for upstairs, doctors and trauma counselors working around the clock. But Reyes wasn't focused on that now. She was watching the footage again. In the dim light of the conference room, the same image looped over and over. Whitaker, standing at the head of a table, giving cold, methodical orders to relocate assets and eliminate risks. The timestamp was irrefutable. He was the architect. And worse, he knew she knew. Rex lay at her feet, body still, ears alert. His breathing was steady, but even in rest, he never let his guard down. She had learned to trust that instinct. If Rex was tense, something was coming. A sharp knock at the door broke the silence. Reyes turned, gun already drawn. "It's me," said a voice she recognized instantly. Luke stepped in, bruises healing, a duffel bag over his shoulder. He looked rattled. "I intercepted chatter," he said. "There's movement." "Where?" "They're trying to clean up. burn everything tied to Lantern, and they're targeting the last copy of those tapes. Yours. Reyes stiffened. They're coming here? No, he said grimly. They're going after your father. She froze. What? They know you made a copy. They don't know where it is, but Whitaker knows you'd trust one person more than anyone else. He figured it out. Reyes cursed under her breath and bolted for the phone. No dial tone. Cut. Rex was already standing. They reached her father's house outside Asheville at dawn. It was a modest one-story cabin on the edge of the Blue Ridge. Her father, Samuel Reyes, a retired journalist and Vietnam vet, had always preferred quiet over chaos. But today, there was no quiet. The door was hanging open. The smell of gunpowder lingered in the air. "Dad!" Reyes yelled, weapon drawn. Movement inside. She rushed in, Rex at her side, just in time to see her father held at gunpoint by a man in a black tactical suit. Without hesitation, Rex launched forward. The man never saw it coming. Teeth sunk into his forearm, dragging him to the floor. Reyes tackled him next, disarming him in one fluid motion. She turned to her father. "You okay?" He was shaken, but alive. "They came looking for something," he rasped. "Said you gave me insurance." "Tapes?" She opened the desk drawer. It was gone. The safe behind the bookcase. Empty. But then Samuel reached into the kitchen's cookie jar and pulled out a small USB stick wrapped in foil. "Thought they might try the obvious spots," he said, coughing. "I learned from your mother." Reyes took it, clutching it like a lifeline. Sirens wailed in the distance. Too late. They were already gone before local law enforcement arrived. Back at the bureau, the mood had shifted. Reyes handed the USB directly to Deputy Director Halston in person, but she was met with an icy expression. "We've reviewed your footage," he said, voice cold. "It's compelling." "Compelling?" she snapped. "It's proof." Halston leaned forward. "Then why was it sent to me anonymously last night before you turned it in?" Reyes blinked. "What are you talking about?" "An encrypted drive. Same video, same files. Came with a note saying you were compromised." "That's a lie." He nodded. "Maybe. But someone in your unit tipped Whitaker off about the raid. You were the only one who knew the location and schedule." Her fists clenched. "You think I'm the leak?" "I think we need to be careful. Until we verify the source, you're off the case." She stepped back like he'd slapped her. "I bled for this case," she hissed. "That dog nearly died for this case." Reyes stormed out before she said something she couldn't take back. Outside, she found Rex sitting at the steps of the bureau, watching her with patient eyes. "They don't believe me," she muttered. He tilted his head. "I've got one shot left." She whispered. "Sarah Taylor." Sarah had once been Reyes's partner at Quantico. Now she ran a private digital forensics lab in Pittsburgh, working off the grid for people who couldn't go through official channels. She didn't answer calls. But when Reyes and Rex showed up on her doorstep that night, she opened the door, saw their faces, and simply said, "Come in." Inside, Reyes handed her the original hard drive. "I need everything. Metadata, file origin. I need to prove it's real." Sarah nodded. "Give me 2 hours." While they waited, Reyes sat on the floor beside Rex. "You trust me, right?" she asked him. Rex blinked, then gently rested his head in her lap. She scratched behind his ears. "You and me, huh? We don't quit." 2 hours later, Sarah came back in, face pale. "I found something." Reyes stood. "There's embedded code in the footage," Sarah said. "Same footage, 2 versions, but the one sent to Holston? It's been edited, cropped, audio shifted. Edited by who? Sarah looked at her. Whitaker. Or someone working for him. Reyes blinked. You're saying the footage he submitted to the Bureau to discredit me came from him? Exactly. That's the play, Reyes whispered. He's feeding the FBI doctored tapes to paint me as the leak. Sarah nodded. But I have the original, with matching timestamp signatures. Reyes smiled for the first time in hours. Let's burn him. Rex stood beside her, tail twitching, as if he'd been waiting for that. The war wasn't over, but the pieces were falling into place. The warehouse on the outskirts of Cleveland was supposed to be abandoned, but inside, floodlights buzzed and shadows moved with military precision. A convoy of black SUVs idled near the loading bay, and armed men in unmarked tactical gear guarded every exit. This was no ordinary cleanup. This was a purge. Sarah Taylor's decrypted footage had already been uploaded to an offshore deadman switch. If Reyes didn't return to confirm the upload within 24 hours, it would hit every major news outlet. But Reyes didn't want to wait. She wanted Whitaker's operation dead by morning. She crouched behind a rusted dumpster, peering through her binoculars as Rex lay beside her, still as stone, eyes locked on the warehouse door. They had followed a signal traced from one of the trafficked burner phones Sarah found in the metadata. The device pinged here 36 hours ago. It was active again. That meant someone inside had turned on their phone. Amateur mistake. Or bait. Either way, it was their only lead. Reyes clicked the comm once. Luke's voice crackled in her ear. Visual? Too many hostiles, she whispered. We're gonna need a diversion. I've got something. Wait for my mark. 10 seconds later, an explosion rocked the far end of the warehouse compound. A secondary blast took out the eastern security camera feeds. Go! Luke shouted. Reyes and Rex moved fast. They slipped through the shadows, low and fast across open ground. The loading door was already damaged from the blast. She pried it open enough for Rex to squeeze through, then followed. Inside, they found more than intel. They found cages, dozens, lined against the wall, each holding a sedated dog. German shepherds, Belgian Malinois, 1 Doberman. All fitted with embedded Jeeps trackers and synthetic scent chips. Rex padded between the cages slowly, sniffing each one. Then he stopped. His ears lowered. He whined. Reyes approached and saw why. In the far corner was a cage with Rex's designation tag burned into the metal. K9201. This was where they'd held him before the sale, where they'd prepped him for asset transition. Rex looked up at her with something darker than fear. Memory. They built this program around you, she whispered. You weren't just a soldier to them. You were a prototype. The dogs began to stir. She turned and froze. Someone was clapping behind her. Whitaker. Alive. Confident. Wearing a grey trench coat like he was heading to brunch, not running an international black site. You made it further than I expected, he said, stepping into the light. But still predictable. Reyes raised her weapon. He didn't flinch. Go ahead. Pull the trigger. See what happens when 25 armed guards come storming in. She held steady. You're done. We have the files. We have your voice. We have everything. He smirked. Except me. Then he raised a remote and pressed a button. Behind him, a second row of cages began to rise. Not dogs. Children. 5 of them. Eyes wide, gagged. Reyes's heart dropped. They were being transported to another facility, Whitaker said. My mistake for leaving them here. But now, they're leverage. Rex let out a low, warning growl. Whitaker looked down. Idiot. You know, there was a moment in Syria when I thought you might break. But you didn't. You kept waiting for orders. He turned back to Reyes. You think this is about money? About drugs? This is about control, structure, order. Reyes's voice shook. You abducted children. No, I gave them purpose. Like I gave Rex. Like I gave you. He took a step forward. Pull that trigger, and they die. She didn't flinch. Wrong. Rex was already moving. He launched not at Whitaker, but at the console behind him. His jaws snapped the power cable clean in half. Alarms screamed. Cage doors opened. The lights went out. Chaos. Reyes sprinted toward the children. Whitaker dove into the shadows. Gunfire erupted from the hallways. She reached the first cage, ripped the latch open, then the second. Luke's voice came over the comm. I'm in! Pulling power from the main grid now! Grab the kids! Reyes shouted. We're extracting! Rex was already fending off 2 guards in the corridor, a blur of teeth and fury. Blood splattered the wall. Reyes grabbed the smallest girl and shouted at the others, Follow the dog! They ran. Even in the dark, they trusted Rex. He weaved through crates, back through the loading bay. More guards came. Luke met them at the gate with a flash grenade and a shotgun. Reyes shoved the kids into the SUV. Rex leapt in last, panting, blood on his coat but still standing. They tore away into the night. Behind them, the warehouse exploded. Not from Luke. From inside. Self-destruct. Whitaker had scorched the earth. 20 minutes later, they reached a secure drop point. The kids were loaded into a DHS ambulance. Agents arrived in unmarked vehicles. Reyes handed off the last of the footage. This time, she didn't give it to Holston. She gave it to a female reporter from the Post, Jessica Hale. Independent, brutal, honest. Run it, she said. All of it. The reporter nodded, eyes wide at what she'd just seen. As the sun crept over the horizon, Reyes sat on the curb beside Rex, breathing in the cool morning air. You saved them, she said, resting her hand on his neck. Rex leaned into her touch. Not just a tool, not just a soldier. He was the first to break free, and he had just shown the others how. The footage went live at 4:03 a.m. Jessica Hale uploaded it to an international whistleblower site hosted on Icelandic servers, then mirrored it across 6 platforms with backup redundancies. Within minutes, the video spread like wildfire. A high-definition confession from a former handler turned victim, paired with raw visuals of the trafficking compound. The public reaction was swift and furious. Congress opened an emergency session. Interpol issued sealed warrants. And somewhere deep in D.C., powerful men stared at frozen screens, realizing their secrets were now a matter of global record. Reyes watched it unfold from a safe house in upstate Pennsylvania, a decommissioned ranger lodge buried under pine and silence. Her laptop glowed dimly in the dark. The video paused on a still frame of the cages, each one numbered, each one tagged with evidence. Rex lay curled near the fireplace, his breathing steady. For once he slept deeply. She didn't, because she knew what came next. Retaliation. Luke entered from the kitchen, coffee in hand, eyes bloodshot. It's trending in 12 countries. Someone hacked a jumbotron in Times Square. Played the whole clip. Reyes nodded. Good. Let the world see. Luke paused. You think Whitaker's still alive? I'd bet my life. Why? Because he hasn't tried to kill me yet. Luke let out a bitter laugh. That's one hell of a metric. A knock broke the quiet. 3 soft taps. Reyes froze. Luke dropped the mug. Rex was on his feet instantly, teeth bared. The knock came again. Same rhythm. Reyes stepped toward the door, her pistol raised. She opened it a sliver. On the porch stood a man in civilian clothes, arms up. No weapon. Late 40s, stubble, eyes worn from years of watching people lie. "Name's Mark DeWitt," he said quietly. "Used to work counter-intel. Now I freelance for someone who wants Whitaker gone as badly as you do." Rex didn't growl. He just stared. That was rare. Reyes opened the door wider. "Talk fast." DeWitt stepped inside and pulled out a sealed flash drive. "This has locations, one of Whitaker's last secure data centers. Underground. Fortified. But if what I think is still on that server, it's not just blackmail. It's leverage. Names, asset maps, off-book K9 programming data, including Rex's original deployment logs." Reyes took it. "Where?" "North Carolina, beneath a fake pharmaceutical plant outside Raleigh." Luke shook his head. "That's suicide. We don't even know if the data's still there." DeWitt didn't blink. "You want Whitaker? You burn his vault." Reyes stared at the drive, then nodded. The next night, they moved. They used old IDs, stolen plates, and false digital trails. Reyes drove. Luke ran Overwatch. Rex rode in the back, suited in black ballistic fabric, a small transmitter woven into his harness. The facility looked unremarkable. Chain-link fences, sodium lights, a sign that read, "Horizon Therapeutics Research, by appointment only." It was the "by appointment only" that told her it was real. Luke hacked the perimeter lights. Reyes and Rex slipped through the fence's blind corner. They crossed the lot, climbed the side utility ladder, and entered through the rooftop vent DeWitt had mapped from old schematics. Inside, the air was cold, filtered, artificial, clean like a morgue. They moved fast. 2 floors down, Reyes found the elevator locked by biometric scan. Rex stepped forward. She blinked. "What are you doing?" He pressed his nose to the panel. It lit green. Access granted. She stared in disbelief. "They coded you into the system." They descended into the dark. The data room looked like something out of a Bond film. Glass walls, humming servers, a steel table in the center covered in paper files with no headers. Reyes slid the flash drive into the nearest terminal. Upload started. Then froze. Unauthorized IP detected. Suddenly the overhead lights went red. A voice crackled through hidden speakers. "Agent Reyes, you're very predictable." Whitaker. Live. Watching. "You think I left my brain lying around for you to steal?" She turned to Rex. He stood tall, unshaken. Whitaker's voice continued. "You're in my house now, and you brought my dog home." Then the gas vents opened. A faint hiss filled the air. Reyes pulled up her scarf and reached for Rex's muzzle filter. Too late. Rex coughed, then growled. The doors locked. Alarms howled. 3 armed guards poured in from the far hall. Reyes dropped one with 2 shots, dove behind the server rack. Rex lunged, caught the second by the leg, yanked him down, screaming. The third aimed at Reyes. Rex took the bullet. Full on, mid-air, to the side of his chest. He dropped. The guard turned to finish the job. Reyes emptied the clip. Silence returned. Smoke curled through the room. She crawled to Rex, yanked off the vest. Blood. Thick. Red. "No, no, no. Stay with me," she whispered, pressing her hands into the wound. His eyes fluttered. Luke's voice screamed through the comm. "Reyes, extraction now!" "I can't leave him." "Don't. The secondary panel, on the south wall, manual override." She saw it. Drenched in light. Flickering. She ran. Hit it. The room shut down. Doors unlocked. Luke's voice came again. "I'm coming in." Rex stirred. Tried to stand. Couldn't. She dropped beside him. "We're not dying in here. You hear me? You stay with me, Rex. You've been through worse." Sirens outside. Helicopters. DeWitt's contact had called in a favor. Within 10 minutes, the whole building was surrounded. Reyes rode out with Rex in her lap, blood soaking through her jeans. She held his head close. "You're not just a dog," she whispered. "You're the reason I didn't give up." His tail moved once. Just once. Enough to keep her going. The clinic was quiet, dimly lit, the smell of antiseptic thick in the air. The only sound came from the heart monitor beside the operating table, where Rex lay under a sterile white blanket, his breathing shallow but steady. Tubes ran from his leg to an IV bag. A bandage wrapped his ribcage, soaked faintly in crimson. Jessica stood just outside the room, hands clenched into fists, her jacket still spattered with blood. She hadn't spoken since they arrived. Luke leaned against the wall across from her, arms crossed, watching her in silence. "He's stable," the vet finally said, stepping out and removing his gloves. "The bullet fractured a rib, but it didn't puncture the lung. He'll make it." Jessica blinked fast, nodded once, then turned away before the tears could show. The vet placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "That dog's got fight. Whatever he's been through, he wasn't ready to go yet." She walked into the room alone. Rex's eyes opened slightly as she approached. His tail gave the faintest wag. She knelt beside him and whispered, "You scared the hell out of me." Rex nudged her hand with his nose, weak but purposeful. Jessica pressed her forehead to his. "Rest up. We're not done." 2 hours later, the team met in the back of a diner outside Asheville, North Carolina. DeWitt had taken over a booth, a laptop open in front of him. Luke sat beside him, nursing a coffee. Jessica arrived last, dropping a manila folder on the table. Inside, a printed transcript of the server logs they'd salvaged before the gas released. "There's one more facility," DeWitt said. "Not underground, not shielded, hidden in plain sight." He turned the laptop to face them. Aerial photo. A sprawling, modern corporate complex on the outskirts of Denver. High fences, green lawns, labeled as an AI defense contractor called Strateca Systems. "It's a front," he said. "Whitaker's final vault. Not for data. For people." Jessica frowned. "What kind of people?" "K9 handlers, scientists, analysts, everyone who knew the Ghost Initiative from the inside. They're not missing. They're caged." Luke leaned forward. "You saying he turned it into a prison?" "No," DeWitt said. "A farm. Ghost wasn't just training dogs. It was reprogramming people, creating loyal, deniable agents. And we just exposed half his infrastructure. He's got every reason to go scorched earth." Jessica didn't blink. "So we hit Strateca." DeWitt nodded. "You get in, extract the personnel, and upload the last logs. Everything else gets detonated." Luke narrowed his eyes. "What's the catch?" DeWitt slid over a second folder. Inside, surveillance photos. Whitaker. Alive. Walking out of Strateca's front entrance in broad daylight, wearing a suit, smiling, surrounded by ex-military contractors. Cameras saw him yesterday. He's back, public-facing, brazen, which means he's making his final move. Jessica looked at the photo, then folded it in half. "Then we make ours." They launched the op at midnight. Luke handled security reroutes. DeWitt masked the satellite pings. Jessica, dressed in Strateca contractor gear, walked through the front gate with a forged badge, her face partially obscured by a respirator mask. No one stopped her. Inside, the building buzzed like a Silicon Valley startup. Clean halls, glowing lights, polished concrete. The only difference was the silence. The wrong kind. Like a smile with no soul behind it. Jessica reached the central server room without issue. She connected the drive. Upload started. 50%. 65. But then the lights dimmed. A single alarm chirped, not loud, just enough. She turned and saw him. Whitaker. Standing in the doorway, hands folded behind his back, calm as ever. "I was wondering when you'd show," he said. "You always had an issue with authority." Jessica didn't raise her weapon. Not yet. "You're done," she said. "The files are public. The world knows." Whitaker smiled faintly. "And yet I'm still standing. You should ask yourself why." He stepped forward. "You're not the hero here, Agent Hale. You're the story they'll bury once this gets too messy for the press to handle. You think Rex is the exception? He's proof of concept, a prototype. We've already started phase 2. He reached into his pocket and held up a tablet. On the screen, a live feed of cages, at least 20 German shepherds, all hooked to monitoring gear. "And this time," he said softly, "there are no emotional attachments." Jessica's gun was up in a flash, but he didn't flinch. "You shoot me, and every single one of them gets hit with a neuro trigger." She froze. Whitaker leaned in. "You've already lost. Again." A snarl cut through the silence. Whitaker's eyes shifted. Too late. Rex hit him from the side like a freight train. The tablet skidded across the floor. Jessica fired. Not at Whitaker. At the control panel. The screens blinked out. The cages unlocked. Sirens wailed. Real ones this time. Reinforcements poured in. Jessica dragged Rex behind a column as gunfire erupted down the hallway. Luke's voice crackled in her earpiece. "You got 15 seconds before I crash the backup grid. Do it!" She hissed. Lights went dark. They ran. Rex led, even limping, his senses cutting through the chaos. The halls blurred past. They reached the loading bay just as the compound locked down. Outside, DeWitt pulled up in a black van, doors already open. They dove in. As they peeled away, the building behind them flickered and failed. A blackout from the inside out. Jessica clutched Rex tight as the city lights faded behind them. "Whitaker's gone," DeWitt said, breathless. "No body, no trace," Jessica exhaled. "He'll be back." Rex rested his head in her lap, and for now, that was enough. The compound burned for hours. Even as the team fled into the woods, the orange glow behind them lit up the horizon like a second sunrise. Helicopters buzzed overhead, too late to stop anything. Sirens howled in the distance. Inside the van, no one spoke. Rex lay on the floor, bruised but breathing. His eyes followed Jessica's every move. She knelt beside him, checking for bleeding, brushing soot from his muzzle. "You saved everyone," she whispered. "Again." Luke, at the wheel, glanced into the rearview mirror. "DeWitt says the files are live. All of them. That last upload made it out." Jessica nodded. "Then it's over." But DeWitt's voice came sharp through the comms. "Not quite. There's something you need to see." Back at their safe house, hidden in the hills outside Flagstaff, they gathered around DeWitt's laptop. On screen, a new anonymous post from the same encrypted whistleblower site they'd used. It wasn't from their team. The header read, "Phoenix Protocol. Witness file." Jessica clicked play. A grainy video flickered to life. Whitaker. Alive. In a dimly lit room. Not a hostage. Not running. Speaking directly into the lens. "You think you've won," he said, eyes calm, smile tight. "You exposed Ghost. Shut down Stratica. But this story is bigger than me. You stopped a program, not the machine." He leaned forward. "Phoenix Protocol has already begun. Embedded agents, backdoor access, the next generation of control, and you'll never see them coming." The feed cut to black. Jessica sat back in her chair, stunned. He knew we'd make it. He wanted us to distract us while he set something else in motion. Luke stood slowly. "Then we didn't end the game. We just changed the board." Rex stirred from the corner. He stood, walked over, and nudged the laptop closed with his nose. His tail thumped once. "Not now. Not yet." Jessica smiled faintly. "He's right. Let the world process what we gave them. The fight's not over. But tonight, we rest." They stayed off-grid for the next few days, out in the open country, quiet, watching the news shift from panic to outrage to action. The Department of Justice announced a full investigation into covert military research. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Protests swelled outside AI defense labs from Seattle to D.C. One morning, Jessica received an email. No sender, no address, just a subject line. For him. Attached was a photo. Rex, his face blown up on a mural wall in Brooklyn, spray-painted in black and gold. Above him, the words, "Loyalty never dies." Below that, a QR code. She scanned it. It linked to a video. A rough-cut, user-made tribute compiling moments from their leaked footage. Rex dragging Charlotte to safety. Rex taking down mercenaries. Rex standing guard while the files uploaded. At the end, text faded in. German shepherds aren't just dogs. They're warriors, survivors, family. Jessica blinked hard. The video cut to a call to action. Support our canine veterans. Share your story. Subscribe to the German Shepherd Initiative. Help us protect those who protect us. Rex sat beside her, eyes fixed on the screen. "Looks like you're famous," she whispered. He didn't move, just sat tall, like he already knew. Later that week, they filmed a video of their own. Just her and Rex on the porch, the Arizona sun behind them. No edits, no music, just a single, raw message. Jessica looked into the lens. "People ask me what makes Rex different, how he knew to save that girl, how he fought through fire and bullets to protect people he never met. The answer's simple." She reached out and touched his fur. "He never forgot who he was, and he never stopped fighting for us, even when we didn't deserve it." She paused. "If you've ever known that kind of loyalty, if you've ever had a dog like Rex, tell us, tell the world, because their stories deserve to be heard." The screen faded to black. Then one final message appeared. "Join the movement. Honor the brave. Subscribe now to the German Shepherd Initiative, because heroes walk on 4 legs too."